No secrets among friends.
You're on.
Okay, folks, it's 6:30 on the 26th of November. We have a meeting of the Clifton Borough Budget Committee. We have a quorum, so we'll give the meeting with pledge allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Opportunity for public input. Do we have any this evening? Anybody care to say anything? Okay, then the review and approval of the 12th of November minutes.
I had one small comment,
Okay.
which I'll find in a second. On page 3, under new business, it's a CIP update. In the first sentence, it reads, everyone's request and is are working.
Oh, yep.
It's got to be just one of those words.
In there somewhere?
Yeah,
Thank you. Yep.
probably just a typo.
Yep. Thank you.
You should see all the ones I make.
Everyone's request. I think I'd like R instead.
Or it's referencing CIP, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I would, CIP as an entity, I would use is.
yeah, that's what I'm sure.
Put your word on the other.
But I was an engineer, so, you know, what do we know?
I was an English major. I was way
There you go. We'll go
I used
with
way
you.
too many comments.
Too many.
I move that we accept the minutes as corrected.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Further review? None forthcoming. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I shall abstain since I wasn't here.
Right you are.
Although I was able to watch the meeting thanks to Joe's wonderful video.
I'll tell you. It's the power of the internet. Moving on then, cemetery budget. Sue.
Things are looking up. We need more money.
This was graves.
We'll try to be able to hear all week, right? Okay.
Right. Sorry, I can't figure out any way to save 5%. Just can't do it. There's too much work that needs to be done. We have tweaked the other, all of the categories a little bit here. The maintenance is pretty good. He was under this year, so we'll drop that a little bit. Old cemeteries restoration is where we're focusing this coming year. The $1,000 we've been spending is for repair of stones, and we're doubling that to $2,000. The damage at the Edgerly Blake Cemetery a year and a half ago, she was only able to do a portion of those repairs because one of the stone with the worst damage was too big for her to handle. But she's now got equipment so that she can do it this coming year.
So how much do you think that will be?
So for her work of repairing stones, we're budgeting $2,000. And then we're budgeting $10,000 for tree work on the old cemeteries.
Is that all for tree work, Susie? The difference is the 2 for the stones and
10 for tree, yeah. We're hoping that we'll have a contract by the end of the year for a good amount of that, and maybe if there's anything left in this year's budget, we can get even more done.
I'm not complaining, but I was curious why you've, for cemetery improvement, sent $6,500 this year and then dropped it to $1,000.
That is because of the new gates out here. that line is for this cemetery out here. Or, I should say, for town cemeteries, we have another town cemetery, but we only do mowing and trimming at that one so far. Well, I don't know, did we ever fix that post?
No,
No. You'll have to remind me about that.
I shall.
Susan, could you educate me on how the town ended up, I'm sure this is something that happened a long time ago, responsible for what were originally, I would guess, family cemeteries around town?
They're old private family cemeteries, yes.
Not that I want them neglected, I don't. but-
The town, we've been mowing them and cleaning them up for over 50 years. Bill Williams has done it.
So it's
He
been
did
a
it-
long time.
He did it that long. And I don't know who did it before that, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone else was there before him doing it, because they're old enough that a lot of these families are gone.
How many do we have, out of curiosity?
There are like 62
How that many?
62 cemeteries in town.
There was a legislative change as well.
Well, the state considers them historic, a part of our history that we should work to preserve. And so that's really.
And I don't disagree with that, I was just curious how this came about.
The cemeteries are owned by the descendants of the people buried there. They're not owned by the neighboring property owner or the surrounding property owner. So, any descendants have rights of access. There are a few who still go and visit some of these old cemeteries. We had a couple of public hearings a couple of years ago where we declared a number of them as abandoned, which is a process that the legislature set up so that towns would have the right of access as well as the responsibility to maintain them and manage them, actually. So we did, I think 2/3 of them we declared abandoned. The others, there were family members still involved, still active, and we haven't gone back to start that process again on the remaining ones, but we will at some point.
So the
We
abandoned,
still have somebody going out every year and taking care of them, even though theoretically we don't have the authority to do that.
Right, the issue is spending public funds on private property.
Right. So you declare it
I mean,
abandoned, then you have
Then it's
the
public
obligation and.
declared abandoned by the ancestors
property. Right.
of the people buried there. They
Yeah.
don't want to take care of that.
Right.
They've abandoned that, so the town
Right,
therefore has to take over.
right.
The
Now,
cemeteries
do
are all.
you have to take over, or could you say, no, we're not gonna do that?
You could let them go, I guess,
You know,
but what would we gain by that?
Yeah.
For this amount of money,
yeah.
I don't know.
All the cemeteries have a public access.
No,
Even,
no. No,
They don't.
no.
How, the ones that we maintain, for instance, if they're on the interior of a residential location, they can deny the public to go to that,
Correct.
okay.
But by declaring it abandoned, they cannot deny the town to go in there and maintain it.
Okay.
Okay, that's all right. That's, thank you, that.
Mhm.
I was trying to figure out how we could be abandoned and that we would have.
It's a really poor choice of words.
Yeah.
It's a terrible,
Yeah.
We fought with that.
terrible choice of words, and
And
we've
then we ran
been
into
around.
that problem with the cemetery over on 171.
Yeah, the Thompsons,
Thompsons
they did
Cemetery.
not, they didn't like the word, they
No.
didn't,
Yeah.
We're not abandoning our,
they decided they wanted to
Ancestors.
start taking care of it, so,
yeah.
so they are.
Yeah, because they misunderstood the word. You were.
Well,
they were
it
implying
theoretically
that-
gives us authority to maintain it, and manage it. That worried them, because there's still room in it.
Yeah, because.
They didn't want us to give plus to somebody
Yeah,
else.
one of them said, he said, we had an abandoned.
Even
And
though,
they talked.
you know, we offered to make a legal agreement with them,
Yeah,
but we just,
yeah, they wanted to do
they
it.
just didn't want to do it, so we didn't do it.
Now, so we're talking about $10,000 worth of tree work. Okay?
Yes.
For
Doesn't
purposes
take
of
much
every-
to
for
get, to
purposes
spend
of
10,000.
everybody else, I was here when you was at the meeting when you were talking to the selectmen about your budget. This is not going to cover all of those 62, 75.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no,
Right.
no.
So can you give us an idea going forward? I mean, we're gonna be talking about $10,000
We're gonna be
a
talking
year.
about this amount of money every year for
Okay,
the foreseeable future.
I just wanted
to do
that.
tree work.
That's fine, I just wanted that to
Or,
let people understand. what they are.
or stone wall work.
Mhm.
There's some that are, and they all can use something.
Okay.
And we talked, was it Monday,
Mhm.
about charitable giving, and setting up
Right.
a 501c3 or whatever we might want to do.
The selectmen want us to apply for grants. Well, all the grants that I can find, you have to be a 501c3 to be eligible.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we meet all the criteria.
Okay.
But a town of Tuftonboro applying for a grant isn't going to get very far.
Mm.
So we're exploring the possibility of working with, like, for example, possibly the Historical Society.
That gets up to be my question. I said, could we break that portion out into almost like a sub corporation to apply for the grants? Is that anything that's anybody broached that thought?
We could do a Friends of the Cemeteries
Yeah.
organization,
Okay.
which we just learned this week,
Okay.
and become a 501c3 with another group of volunteers, you know,
Yeah. No.
going to another set of meetings. So yes, we could do that.
Okay. I was just out of the curious. That's all.
Well, the Historical Society is a 501c3, is it not? So
Yes, it is.
that might be, or the Tuftonboro Association might be another
Right, right.
possibility. As opposed to starting up a whole.
Well, we've hit them up for the signs, those
Signage,
wooden
yeah.
signs in the cemeteries.
We did
They did those, you did those.
30 of them. You know, we put the signage up on, I think, 30 locations.
Right, and they need replacement, and it'd be nice to have them at the other 30 locations too.
Yeah.
So I've mentioned that a couple of times to
Some of
Bill.
those cemeteries, though, are not visible from a couple of the cemeteries that we went into that had the signage were so interior and into the wooded areas that the signs were never going to be visible for any purpose. But the 30, I think we put up 32 of them, and it was. And I assumed that was one of the assumptions that we had public access to do that, but so we, basically, when we were putting the
You were
sign up, we were
trespassing.
trespassing.
Yes.
Unbeknownst.
You didn't get any complaints from the occupants, did you?
Well, no, but we did get one complaint from,
Really?
but it was, the sign was put up and then was taken down. And,
They don't want the public in there.
that
We
was the
did,
only.
we visited one, the McDuffie Runnels Cemetery down in Water Village. It's right on the Tuftonboro Ossipee town line, in behind Dan Libby's house. The guy who owns the land had logged it, and he left 2 trees right where the graves are. There's 2 graves in there, one marker and one depression, and it's just brush and these 2 ginormous trees towering over. It's like, really, could you have just taken those trees? So, no sign or anything, so you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know there was a cemetery there. It's in such bad condition.
You're all right with this number?
Yes.
Suzie, what's going on with the French cemetery that got repaired and then got wiped out again?
We are going back and forth with the insurance company on getting some money to get it repaired. And
Because it was beautiful for 2 weeks.
I know, it's just heartbreaking, really. Yeah, we've submitted two proposals to them, and
They call it an act of God, covered.
no, they want more detail, more specification in the proposals. So, we're working on that. And these guys, they don't like doing that. All the people that do this kind of work, tree work, stone work, they don't like paperwork. Well, a few people do.
I'd like to move that we accept section 4195 for cemeteries in the amount of $27,850.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Very well then, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Susan.
I appreciate that everybody's supportive.
Next on the list for the evening is the police department. Do we have chief?
He's coming.
Griffin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, now.
Thank you, Susie.
Nice Thanksgiving.
Oh, you too.
Would it be correctly that the police department's proposal, the selectmen approved it as is, as written?
No, we debated a couple of different things on there.
But they came up with the same figure.
But they came up with the same figure.
As his last revision.
About it.
Oh.
As the last revision, like he met with them before, but when they voted, yeah. it went to be- We had to go back and change some things.
In talking with Clinic Group Benefits, did you learn how to pronounce Mr. Halverson's first name?
No, I didn't.
I was just going to Mr. Halverson.
That's what I looked at.
Well set for you, chief.
Welcome.
So, enlighten us.
Huh?
Enlighten us.
Enlighten you? Presented budget, it's got a 5% increase. Most of that is in, well, I guess to go back, when I originally presented the budget to the selectmen, I included another full-time officer. Why? Because we were very short-handed last year, over this year, excuse me. The standard is you should have about a 25% to 30% availability. We were down to 11% at one point over this. We averaged 21% over the year. That means that we couldn't go sit in a lot of places and do a lot of things. We basically were going call to call to call over the summer. Or handling reports related to those calls, those sorts of things. If you didn't see us on the road, that's what we were doing. But in the providing that to the selectmen, there's obviously there's issues with space. We added another person, other issues that go with that. So they have approved a budget of 5% increase, which most of that is in salaries, expenses. There's a few things that had to go up. Vehicle maintenance has gone up. We've had some, we have to replace the firewall, so we have security for our computer network. That's going to cost some money. pretty much did increase conferences and training because we've gone over, and we hope to continue with some more training. We did also increase radio equipment. There's going to be a new antenna going up at the fire station, which means we have to reprogram our radio with that repeater in it. There may be an opportunity to get some. I have put in for a grant for radio reprogramming. It's a plug that has to be done. If we can combine it, we might not have that expense, but I'm not hopeful. The other big expense that's in here is the tablets, the cruisers, and the vehicle. And that's obviously one of the biggest one on the new equipment.
Out of curiosity, what is e-crash and e-ticket?
Those are crashes are reporting, and tickets are stopping people and writing tickets. The E is the electronic part of it.
Okay.
So they get electronically submitted in the case of crashes right to the Department of Safety. In the case of tickets, they get reported directly to, well, goes through our system. Once it gets approved, it will be electronically submitted to the courts and Department of Safety. I guess Department of Safety, but then they forward it to the court. There are grants to help offset some of that cost. I'm hopeful that that'll happen. Right now, we have tablets and the cruisers, 3 of them. Well, we have all 4 cruisers. One is replaced in this year's budget. Next year's budget, I was going to do 3 of them with 4 setups for e-crash and e-ticket. The tablets, they're expensive because they're hardened, they're designed to ride in vehicles, take the cold, take the heat, take the vibration, and they have to be locked in. The grant, we have tablets now. Originally this came up because our computer IT guy said that they need to be replaced next year. He seemed to think that we're a different operating system. The Windows 8 Pro, I think he thought they were Windows 7. So if we don't replace them, in order to get them replaced with a grant, though, we have to agree to e-crash and e-ticket. That's the hook they have here for the grant is, we'll help with the cost if you agree to e-crash and e-ticket. Otherwise, we'd be on the hook. Yeah,
How much is the grant?
I believe it's up to 50% for the tablets and 75% so for the e-crash part of it and e-ticket, you have to have GPS, you have to have a scanner, you have to have a printer in the car, and you have to mount for the various things. Basically, it's the printer and the printer mount, but the other things will be built into the tablet.
Do you have any room for prison in these cars by the time you're through?
That's why they're tablets, because they're, they're much smaller and compact. I think for the printer and the printer mount and the install, there's a grant of, I think, 75% on that one. So, which would figure on that, you're talking about a 50, I guess in a general sense, about 50% would be what I would think would be the grant on that.
So are you guaranteed to get the grant if
Nope.
you do that?
Nope. I can tell you that if I don't get the grant, I won't do it, because I had a little chat about that being,
So you can that if
yeah,
you don't get
because
assistance?
because I basically told e-crash is a benefit to the state, if you will, if we go to e-crash. Right now, when we do an accident report, it's 2 pages, and we mail it in, and then somebody has to take and read it and do data entry. If we do it with the e-crash, it goes in electronically, it goes right into the database like that. If not, there are boxes of these things they have to manually pull out. So it's a favor, it's a benefit to them. It's a benefit for us too. We don't have to mail it, we don't have to handle it as many times, but it's obviously a bigger benefit for them than it is for us. E-ticket, I don't know that it's a benefit either way for anybody. It's just the only benefit to e-ticket for the state or us is that things are going to be in there properly. So if somebody's name is like John Wayne, right now we're handwriting them in. Somebody transposes the names doesn't put last name first, if they put first name last, you can end up with Wayne John as the person getting the ticket, not. What happens with the e-ticket, you scan it, and it just electronically fills the fields, and
So you scan the license?
scan the license, scans the reg, and it's done by GPS, so you have the location both for crashes. Give a little more accuracy on the crashes, so you don't have mistaken locations, like, you know, if there's a bunch of accidents at this, you know, obviously it's easy for us if we're at an intersection, you know, like 171 and Ledge Hill. Okay, that's an intersection on the map. Sometimes, if it's not at an intersection, they go between intersections. So it's like, this is 100 and this is 105. You estimate how many feet it is between, and they try and say, okay, you've got a lot of accidents in that one location, why? And that's when they start looking at if there's some improvements that need to be done. That's what the GPS is going to do, though. It'll eliminate some of those errors. We've caught some in the past where people have not used the right nodes and stuff. That's what, we're not guaranteed the grant, but I basically said, you know, it's kind of an unfunded mandate. If you don't, we're going to have to at some point go to that, but it's not today. What I've heard from the places that do it, they like it, except with the e-crash, it's now like instead of a one side, next side report, it's like a multi-page report that gives a lot more data for them to figure out what's going on with crashes, but it takes a little more time to fill out. And we can, you know, with this, if everything works out good, part of it's with the coverage too, is we can do a lot of this stuff right in the field. We don't have to come back in here and do some of it. But again, you know, e-crash and e-ticket has been going on for, they kept talking about this 20 years ago, starting something like this, getting all the criminal justice system. The courts were the big slow part of it, from their computer system, trying to get that to communicate. And then the Department of Safety had to try and get things to work, and then vendors had to come in. So it's been a long process. It's fine. And then when it finally got going, they only allowed certain places to hook in, because they were trying to work out the bugs. But now apparently they've worked out pretty much all the bugs, from what I gather from it. Already right now, you've got the Sheriff's Office is going to it next year. Bartlett, Madison, Effingham is going to it, I think, if they can. I want to say Freedom. I think Wolfboro is using it, but they're not part of our network, if you will. But so there's a number of towns around us using that.
Where does that stop in the progression of, in 2 years from now, go, well, that system, we've changed it to this, and do you have any idea where it might lead to? Is it going to be a continual, okay, we've got to upgrade, because you know how these computers are and stuff?
Yeah.
Constantly.
I hope, well, I can't predict the future. If I did, I'd buy a Megabucks ticket,
Yeah,
right?
'cause nobody wants to leave anything alone.
But I think that there's a number of advantages. Like I said, we get better data, and we can actually retrieve that data a little easier if it's more accurate. But yeah, if they keep changing it, this is my fear, is at some point they're going to make it difficult. They can never mandate it without paying for it, but they can make it very difficult for anybody who doesn't transfer over.
Excuse me, did you say they'll mandate it without paying for it?
Well,
Like
yeah.
the New Hampshire law?
Yeah, well, yeah, cost shifting and all that does happen, I guess, but I don't see them doing that in the next few years anyways, but it's coming. A lot of places are going to it. Like the Sheriff's Department's looking at it, has got it in their budget for next year. I mean, we already have some of the foundation of it. We do have tablets, but they need to be replaced. If we're gonna go to e-crash and e-ticket, we need to replace them. If we don't go to e-ticket, e-crash, we can run these for a couple more years.
Now, that, 3 of those is 18,000, so they're $6,000 tablets.
Yeah. With install
The
and,
tablets you use now, how much were they? Do you recall off?
I think I paid a little over $1,000. It probably cost about $1,500 when we're all done with the mounts and everything. But to go with that though, they were very, I did it cheap. It's not, they've got one USB port, and that's what the holdup is. We can't do, we need one, if we were to do this with using what we have to, you need GPS, you need a scanner, you need an air card. All those things use a USB or some sort of network connection, and we only have the one. There's the Surface Pros. They're out of date now. I would say this to anybody I've told that we were using them that are in the field. They're kind of surprised that we haven't had problems with them, because some people say, "Oh, how could that work?" Well, we don't take them out of the car that much, so it's not. But they're not ruggedized. They're not meant for that sort of environment, but they worked. But a lot of people have been surprised that we've been able to go without having to replace any of them. Some places have, I guess, but like I said, we leave them locked in the cars pretty much all the time.
I'd like to move on from that dead horse and ask you a couple of questions, if any.
Yep.
The selectmen have, what I will term is requested some additional coverage from the department. For example, the Arrakis and Woodstock-like concerts that they have down at the beach. And I'm aware that, because I watched the meeting, that you have an issue with that, and you do, because if the officer is called away for something much more important, there's no coverage at the beach. And I know you're trying to work with that. Is your overtime budget, which I presume includes that, are you comfortable that that's enough to cover those kinds of things?
Yeah.
You are? Okay, good. I want to be sure.
I had
of that.
originally, I think, put in for about 15,000.
Mhm.
So I added, let's spin it right now. I think I'd gone up a little bit. I was like 15,800 or something, and I added.
Roughly another 4.
Yeah, no, it was I think it says a little higher. It might have been over 16, but I added about $2,800 to cover the concerts,
Yeah.
the polls, town meeting.
As long as you're comfortable, that's all I care. Thanks.
Well, we spent a lot of time on this. I mean,
Oh, I'm aware of that. It's a long meeting.
from the guys' apocryphal comments, we're getting to the point where we're at about 60% of another officer. We need to have coverages at the polls. I don't know if you were there at the polls last year, but the police officer was called away, and then we had an incident with a gun in the parking lot. We can't have that going on, but to give the chief his due, he doesn't have people enough to make it happen. So we've also, that we had the concerts, we had a situation at Brown Road that needed to be looked after. We have 4 elections this year, so it isn't, or 4.
Yeah.
So it isn't going away in 2020. So we've asked the chief to do math and projections going forward, because I think we're really going to have to look seriously at if either having another officer or eliminating coverage, because we don't have overtime enough. We don't have, and once you have an officer on vacation or an officer out for personal leave, the schedule just gets all screwed up. So, people may want to grouse about the ever-expanding police force, but if what we're looking for is some sort of constant coverage here in Tufton, you're going to have people enough to do it.
No doubt.
How many shifts a day are you running? 2 shifts?
2 shifts.
Are we mandated to have police at, say, a concert at 19 Mile Bay, or?
He is.
Well, that's a matter of dispute, but we're not mandated, but it's probably a good idea to do it.
Or could whoever's organizing these have private security do some of that stuff?
The town's organizing.
The town's organizing.
The town organized.
So we did, for the beer fest that's down there in the winter, they are obligated to get a duty officer.
Right.
pay that duty officer.
That- yeah,
But that's a
alcohol
private
involved.
organization.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec is putting on the concert series. You know, like, and maybe we don't need a police officer there. God forbid anything bad happens, and you have a crowd, shit happens. I went down to the beach at one point in time, and there were 4 boats landed on the beach with cases of beer, et cetera, et cetera. Anything could happen.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we need to have patrols.
Can't believe they did that.
Well, on the other
Well,
hand,
there
if
were
you-
people that I would've had a beer with, so.
if you look at the statistics, they're, you know, your statistics that you publish in the annual report are not up. They're about even or slightly down
You're talking for which year?
for over the
18.
last like 2, 4, 6, 8, over the last 10 years. And the population is pretty stable too.
Yeah, but it's also, well, let's see. Well, here's a big thing that I keep hearing about though, is like motor vehicle. We're gonna see more motor vehicle. If we're out just going call to call to call, we're not able to do any motor vehicle. That's one of the big complaints I heard. You know, somebody came in and said basically there's a crash on Brown Road, it's our fault because we weren't there. Well, no, it's not our fault. We could have been there, it could happen down the road too. But the point is, if we're going to the, like this summer, we were going call to call to call. And then when we weren't at calls, we were doing reports or doing whatever we need to do to, plus other administrative functions that we have to do. So the big thing you're seeing that's not being seen here is motor vehicle, which has gone up again since, you know, Officer Gillis is back from the academy, and our discretionary time has gone up to about 35 to 38%. But, you know, part of the, you know, as far as juvenile arrests go, I can tell you part of the reason that's down is because they changed the law on that and made it very tough to do. So we're still dealing with juveniles quite a bit, but we're not making any arrests on them because we basically can't unless they commit a serious felony.
Well, I know this year was a challenging year from a staffing standpoint for you, but I'm thinking that maybe 2020 will be a better year, since you should be up to full steam.
But at
Well,
any
that's
point it
what-
could
that
change.
came up at the meeting on Monday. You know, Officer Gillis has just come on, basically in August,
Right.
so we need some statistics going forward into the spring and the summer to see how that affects
But
things.
again, it's hard. I mean, I didn't expect somebody to need family leave for as long as they did, and you can't predict for that.
Right.
And that could happen again during the summer, and we would right back where we're at. I mean, if one person goes down, we're right back in it. And it was demoralizing for the staff, I think, too, to be at that point where you just boom, boom, boom. No, sometimes you couldn't even stop to think during the summer. I know I worked at a couple of shifts where it was just one to one, and people were calling, well, can you? No, I can't do that, because I got to do this. And part of it was we didn't cover a lot of shifts either. So some of the stats that you aren't capturing are ones when the state police or sheriff's department were covering. So that's what happens when we're short-staffed, they have to cover some of that time. So those aren't gonna be captured in there either. So that's, I mean, and I think the hard part with that is, I mean, they're gonna handle emergencies, they're gonna take care of that, but if it's something that's gonna wait, we're now picking up afterwards, like, so that's a little, you know, if somebody calls in like, oh, somebody broke in my house, I don't know what happened, well, we're gonna be dealing with it the next day. They're not gonna come out unless it's an active event. So,
8-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts.
I do if I added somebody, and that's one of the things, I would look at doing 410s. And that would mean that we'd have less on-call time because we'd have less. Right now, we have on-call, which means we pay call-out, pay them to be on call, and we pay call-outs. That costs a bunch of overtime. If we had 4 10-hour shifts, they would do 2 things for us. One, would give less time to people on call, so we'd be paying out less on-call time. We'd be paying less call-outs because people would already be on. And the other part of that is it would mean that, but with working 4 days, you have 3 people off. So if you have something come up, there's more likely to be somebody available to help out or fill
Good
in.
point.
Because you won't have just, they're not giving up half their free time to take a day. I mean,
So you work what, so you go like 7 to 11?
yeah, basically.
I have a question which isn't necessarily just for the chief, but for overall for the whole town. I'm looking at the telephone expense. Do we have a multiple telephone carriers that we're doing business with in the town?
I don't think so.
Well, because
We have 2.
we've got Spectrum up at the landfill, because I questioned that amount. Now we've got Fairpoint here for a landline for $160 a month. And I'm thinking is that like one line, multiple lines?
We have 4 lines.
That's for 4 lines.
4
Okay.
lines. And then the rest of it's our air cards for our mobile devices.
Well, but that's then you have a line for cellular.
Right.
Okay. All right, so that's 4 lines coming, but the rest of the town on Fairpoint in this building, you know?
Not Fairpoint, it's actually consolidated
Yeah, it's
now.
consolidated.
Well, there's no line item says Fairpoint.
Yeah,
that's
it's
what I
consolidated. I believe it, yeah, because, well, we're on this building anyways. I don't know about the rest of the,
Yeah, except for the transfer station. I don't know, the fire department, I think they're on Verizon. I'm looking at the bills in my head.
It's actually 2 different vendors because they're required to stay with TDS and Melvin.
yeah, I think
Oh, right.
There's a little quirk in the law there.
So we have the Melvin Phone Company.
So there's no way of consolidating phone lines into one carrier short of
No.
Melvin to, I mean, for example, go to the Spectrum and say, okay, you have,
Get us a deal?
well, for what they're taking out of this town, for the
Yeah.
populace, I think that might be another negotiation point.
Well, we had the cellular folks in here yesterday, Tim Yee or whatever his name was.
From
And we have
Verizon.
sent out questionnaires to broadband carriers. I imagine we could just expand that to include the phone companies as well.
the hard part is right here, we're kind of spotty as to our phone coverage.
Right.
We have Verizon on our air cards and it drops.
Spotty everywhere.
It drops.
And
off
I have
of-
cell phone coverage at my house, and at my daughter's house right next door, there's none. It's-
So if we had better, if something happens with that where there's better coverage and theoretically, in a few years,
Well, our internet connections coming through Spectrum into town hall?
yes,
Or is this from somebody else?
we're Spectrum.
So I should imagine, we've got some bundle we could put together with Spectrum
We
for the
would hope so.
telephone as well.
It's a balancing act too, I mean, because they're not willing to get into the broadband industry full-fledged. And they're no different than the cable companies, they're all in it for,
Spectrum is a cable.
Spectrum is the
Yeah.
cable company, that's my point.
the cable companies are not interested in expanding into broadband in local communities, so in small communities. There's an effort afoot, and we go to the meetings, Carroll County Broadband Initiative. And so far, the cable companies, whether it's Consolidated or whoever, have been resistant to any efforts on that part. So
My
we're-
point is that if you have Spectrum coming into the building for the internet,
Right.
they could also take care of the
The
landline.
problem, though, is that the cable company's contract and the cable company legislation is so stringent and so impossible to negotiate that our efforts have to be to get out of the cable business. I'm not interested at all in signing anything more than a 1-year contract with the cable company, because they're not willing to expand into these smaller communities like us and provide broadband coverage. And we can't get internet coverage onto Winter Circle Farm, for Christ's sake, and there are 7 houses up there. They have been so reluctant to have their coverage questioned or their rates questioned, that, you know, I can't see doing a deal with them because they don't have to negotiate with us.
I think,
The federal law is that, you know, if you've got them, that's who you get. They don't have to give you anything.
I think to Gordon's point, as far as getting them, we're on a legacy Adelphia program here, plan.
Wow.
So if we would do anything to it, the price goes.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I looked at for the higher speed internet this year. That's why it was gonna go up significantly. That's why it says I dropped the faster internet. I decided we're okay with what we got. But that's part of the problem with saying, hey, we wanna go VoIP. Well, we're business, you've gotta do, our internet bill / VoIP, if that's what you're talking about for phone, is gonna go up. Probably as much as we're paying to Consolidated for that.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, we're really in not a great position to negotiate with the current companies.
None of these communication companies like to
And
communicate.
they, you know, they're
Local
looking for a
law.
long-term contract. Ours is coming up in 2022, I think it is. And they're looking for a multi-year contract, and I can't see there's nothing in it for us to do that. And hopefully by then we'll have some other company that's gonna come through.
well, one of the things that is theoretically going to be coming that could be interesting if it actually comes to fruition, as they say it shall, is FirstNet, which is AT&T. It's a dedicated network, but it'll give high-speed internet over 90%. I think it's 90% of the population, 96% of the state, but they have like 2 more years to build it out. It'll be through AT&T, so it could be, we may end up be swapping over from Verizon to AT&T. We may have, if they follow through with what they're supposed to do.
It's a wireless system, right?
It's a cellular network,
Right.
but it's supposed to give, it's band 14, it's supposed to give good penetration into buildings, it's supposed to give high speed to a variety of things.
The problem, and Lakes Region Planning Commission and the town of Tufton have done a survey. It's still ongoing on cell phone coverage, and I don't see them improving it any. So I don't know that the folks that are living on Dame Road are gonna benefit from, you know, AT&T's broadband service. I mean, we really need a cable system. And that's, I mean, the coalition has actually lobbied with the co-op to allow pole space, because they've put together, I don't know, $3 million.
You know, it's kind of, again, we're going off, but Bristol has done something just like that, but taking on it for their own town, because they were dead. So nobody was coming in with good coverage, so, but that's really here or there, but the problem with FirstNet and all those is they show great coverage for Tuftonboro, but that's not really the case. So if they have great coverage, they think they'll need to build it up. So that's where that 96%.
What we found, and I realize this is off topic, but that if they can find a signal within the 1 mile radius, then they're counting the whole 1 mile as having signal. It doesn't work that way here.
They ought to photograph the number of people that are down in the Melvin Village Community Church parking a lot on their phones.
I have coverage in one side of my house and not in the other. If I get a cell phone call, I have to run for the other side before I lose it.
And that happens on a lot of places.
All right, well, I didn't mean to open a can of worms on that. I was just curious to know more. We had a uniform telephone contract for the whole town. Obviously, we don't. Okay, thank you. Holiday pay come at the end of the year?
Yes. Comes out.
That's what it's Christmas break.
Andy, the radio in the Tuftonboro Fire Station, third police, a third fire, a third sheriff. Is that, do these figures?
So the
these
thirds,
figures are-
originally when I wrote that up, I was told we were dividing it by thirds, the cost of that. third of it was gonna be in the fire department, third of it was gonna be the police department, third of it the sheriff's department was paying for the cost of, again, it goes through, it's got a, I forget what they call it, E-line or something. It's basically, it's got an internet connection, it goes to the internet. I since found out that those costs, because it was gonna be higher than that, that third is gone.
Are these figures here the third?
No, that's all in the emergency management budget now. My third and the fire department third are all under emergency management. So Adam included that in the emergency management budget. What I will have a cost in there is for reprogramming the radios to accept the new tower. That's about, I figure about $100 a radio to do it, thereabouts.
So, and there's how many radios?
We have,
Are there 8 or?
There's 8.
Oh, there's 8.
The,
we might have maybe one more that has to be done, but
in the expended 2019, we're about $75,000 under the 19 budget.
Mhm.
How much of that is going to be chewed up between now and the end of the year?
I expect some savings on fuel. I've seen that. That's why I dropped it a little bit for next year. You never can guess what fuel's gonna do, but I did drop it. Basically, anything with salaries is gonna be gone. Radio equipment, I haven't got a bill for that yet. We just did all the radars. I haven't got a bill for that yet. So that will probably be close. That's not a big ticket anyways. New equipment, I don't know where your number's at for that.
The new equipment is
1,100?
It's 1,100.
Yeah,
about
we just,
$9,000 under.
that'll probably be pretty much spent. We just got our new vest, that was $2,900. And then we've got a couple other things. Like I said, there's one tablet that I have to do now that I gotta order. So that will probably pretty much be gone. There might be a few thousand left in that, not much. Crime prevention, that's pretty much done. Investigations. I have to look at that. I know I also, well, I did drop the faster internet, so there'll be a few thousand there. I didn't do it, and I have decided not to go forward with it, but we're talking about $4,000 from this going towards continuing our plans down the road for the facility. Postage is gonna be close. Repairs, we're already over, and we're gonna be probably getting close to the 10, I think we're gonna be close to 10,000 by the time we're done with repairs. We've got a few other things that have to be done. Overtime will probably, I expect will be under 1,000 or 2 for that. Oh, and salaries will be a little bit under the officer salaries. That'll probably be a few thousand under, because it was originally, when I put it together, it was at a higher rate than what Officer Gillis is at. So there's a few thousand savings there.
Well, you got $75,000 left, and you've got about a $25,000 rate of travel on your payroll, so it's 50 grand somewhere. I know Gillis is gonna add to that, because your rate of travel changed in August.
Yeah.
This just doesn't have to do with the police department, but as tax bills came out recently, I've had more than one person come up to me and say, and I know it's true, Melvin Village Marina has storage buildings, and Holton Borough has a store in Ossipee. Taxes both went down there. Tufton Borough went up. They're going, why are we going up? I think we bit off a big nut to pay for the library this year. But we're going up. Well, of course, this isn't the operating, well, yeah, it is the operating budget, but I don't have an answer to that. I don't know.
We haven't even gotten to warrant articles yet.
Yeah.
Well, but the tax rate that you're talking about is for last year. So it is
Right.
the amount of money that we needed to cover the warrant articles last year. The rate actually didn't go up, the overall rate. But I expect it by
But
next
the
year.
valuations did.
Yeah, the valuations. I imagine next year we won't have that library warrant article. We're gonna have some warrant articles, but certainly
Gotcha.
won't have not the big one.
Well, as the CIP representative, I can tell you that we struggled, so much of the town's tolerance for capital spending is eaten up by a few big things, in particular the fire building, some, engine 2 or engine 4 or whatever, and just a few things that are mandated that we're making continuing payments on. But there is so little left for new warrant articles without going over the town's tolerance, and struggling and moving things around and pushing this out, taking that away, it's still gonna be over the tolerance. As you will find out on December 3rd.
Well,
Everyone will refuse to pay their taxes and the town will go bankrupt.
It's, well, no.
No, no, because you know what, despite the fact that I was saying the tax rate went up, or the taxes went up and stuff like that, this is still, we're fortunate to live in Tuftonboro.
Oh,
where the
absolutely.
taxes are
Without
relatively
question,
low.
right?
But there's not many people happy with the $600 increase.
Right, they're
Well, yeah,
not
but they-
keeping that in perspective, and I understand that.
Well,
I think-
They just saw I've got
I don't know that they're complaining so much about the taxes they're charged, they're complaining about the assessments,
Yeah.
which I have I shake my head in abject wonder where they got some of the numbers from, but that's,
Well, we track the sales. I was looking at them Monday or Friday. We had a bunch of sales that went through. And more than 75% of them were selling for more than the assessed value. So the market's telling us something out there. We are subject to, we're running on property tax. The same people who don't want to pay their property taxes don't want to pay any other taxes either. And at some point in time, you gotta,
I'm just hearing from the people that the $600 here, well, in the last 3 years, their escrow amount and their mortgage is going up and up and up. Their mortgage payment is going up and up. Some of them are on an awful tight budget. And those are the people that are going, Jesus, my mortgage is going up again. And what the answer, the other ones are, like my father's 91. There's another 6, and so.
But take your house or my house or anybody's house and drop it down in Nashua and think about what we'd be paying.
or drop it down to Wolfboro.
Right,
Or
right.
oh
Walpole.
yeah.
You know,
The
it's just crazy.
assessment on my
There's
house
only-
went up 33%.
There's only, what, 5 towns in the entire state of New Hampshire that has a lower
That's a bit
overall
much,
tax,
you know?
overall tax rate.
I'd like to make a motion that, someone make a motion to approve this budget so Chief Chigurh can go home.
Go for it.
Yes, I know, I get off the beaten track there.
Good guy.
I'll make the motion of recommending approval of the police department number 4210 in the amount of $436,643.
I'll second that.
It's been moved, do we have a second? Is there further discussion? None forthcoming, those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Very well then. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Go home.
No, I got stuff to do.
No.
Next we have health insurance.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite, so no.
Well, not so bad.
Yes, first could I comment that, you and I did talk about this, and while nobody likes to see an increase, renewing the plan that we have now would mean that our increase would be 5.5%. And I can tell you that while Melvin Village Marina pays less per person, because we have a younger population, not me, But, our increase was 15%.
And we actually,
Choking on it.
the selectmen have decided on the Access Blue NE plan, which is this one. So we're only looking at a 2% increase on the health insurance. It took a,
What, that's this one.
Yeah,
So
which
what are,
one- which
what
one
are
of
the
you-
prescription differences there?
Which one are you recommending now?
oh, sorry. This one right here.
Here, not here.
That one.
Which alternative?
Right there.
This is the current plan,
You're saying
Access
this one right
Blue.
here, right, Chip?
Right. Current plan Access Blue 2020. So a total increase of $3,554.93, which is 2%. It keeps our employees' deductible and out-of-pocket expenses pretty much the same. The prescription drug changes, but things change. I
Do
did.
the employees contribute anything to the premium?
They do, they contribute. How's that work, Karen? You're involved in this.
We have deductibles and co-pays.
All right, so you have deductibles, and you have co-pays, but there's no other out-of-pocket expense
Right.
beyond that.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
We
And-
reached a point a few years ago where we said we cannot continue to absorb 10 and 15% increases every year. And we will increase the amount that we pay by the cost of living every year and ask the employees to make up the difference.
That's
We've
fine.
been fortunate that we had people hit 65 years old, one right after the other,
Yeah.
and it took our average age down, so we didn't see big increases. But they do pay. It's not a lot, but they do pay.
We looked at a 10% copay or employee pay, and you have to, we've got a total increase of wages and insurance of 3% for the year. So if you start asking the employee to pay 10% of his health insurance plan, you're actually making them go backwards. And we're not, the wages haven't exceeded the $10 or the 10% increase in health plan.
So it's like,
So it may be a moral objection, but it's certainly not a financial objection. Because you can't, if you've got a total increase of $31,000 for 14 employees, that doesn't get anywhere near 10% of the healthcare cost.
So but you still have the HRA, which is,
Right.
you're paying the deductibles for the co-payment? What's
The
the HRA?
employees are putting money into an HRA.
Okay,
All of our health insurance costs are right here,
okay,
the town's health insurance costs.
very good. It was interesting, because I did not make the selectmen's meeting when you discussed this, but I watched the video and I saw a couple of things that I thought that kind of disturbed me a little bit. One of the selectmen made a statement that a lot of people didn't get a raise this year. Well, everybody got a raise this year. Everybody got a cost of living
Yeah,
increase.
that's the.
And if you're going to adopt a step and track system for payroll, that's going to happen. If you're going to stay in the job long enough, you're going to get to the top of your track.
Mhm.
And that's the price you pay for public, for working in the public sector.
Right.
That's perhaps the downside. The upside is the checks don't bounce and you don't get laid off very often. And so I took a little bit of offense about that because, everybody's health care is going to go up next year. I've already got my rates for the Medicare part, down the road, the prescription drug. But to say, I believe it's you, Boyd, that said that the employers are paying 40% of their health care cost. I caught that in line, and I was having a hard time trying to justify that when you came up with that number.
The Tufton Borough Healthcare Plan has been called the Bronze Plan,
Yeah,
and the national standard is the Bronze Plan means that you would sit down and do a audit on every single penny, performance audit.
Yeah.
You would be paying, at the end of the year, 40% of your costs for healthcare. For example.
well, I could debate that number, that's beside.
Oh,
And the other thing that came up was that when there was discussion as far as the site of service alternative plan, and I'm sitting there and I thought to myself, because I believe it was maybe Bill made the comment that those were great plans for more urban areas type situation. If you were to go see a periodontist, where are you going to go?
I have no
Laconia,
idea.
Portsmouth. If you're going to go if you're going to go for a cardiac problem, you're not going to go to Huggins. You're going to go to Laconia. You're going to go to Rochester. You're going to go to Wentworth. Because of where we live, everybody is going to have to go elsewhere anyway. Huggins Hospital is a wonderful place for triage, but that's about it. Your long-term care is not going to come out of Huggins. If that's what you're factoring into your thinking for the local care.
Yeah, I have to factor that in. I mean, if you have a diabetic person, they're not gonna drive to Rochester. I mean, why should they have to drive to Rochester, or Dover, actually, is the first site of service that's available for them. I mean, you need the local clinician to take care of your normal health requirements. And then you get a $3,000 out of pocket, so I mean, that's part of what Lloyd was talking about as a percentage that the employee's paying.
The employees have to pay the first $3,000.
For a full family.
Yeah.
$1,000 per person.
$1,000 out of pocket.
But you're right, I mean, if I have to, I go to Conway for my glaucoma. I couldn't go there. I mean, I'm not on the town's plan, so it doesn't matter. I would have to drive to Concord, to some other eye person down there. I mean, the problem that I saw with the site of service, or I guess we all saw, was there was absolutely no one listed in Carroll County, or Belknap County for that matter.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't have a lot of health issues, so other than my eyesight. So it's difficult for me to understand why one would have to drive to Concord or Manchester to get health care. I mean, then I suppose you're better off charging the people the extra 10% so they can save their gas money. I mean,
Chip, can I ask what this alternative 2 is out here, 2 columns over from what you picked? Because there's a significant savings here with the same deductibles. This column.
yeah, I see it. The alternative to, I believe this is all site of service, if you run down through.
Yeah, I think that's what she said.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't understand that.
it's tough to read sometimes, these
I don't
spreadsheets.
understand what site of service is.
Because they'll decide, the insurance company will decide who they're gonna offer for doctors.
Oh, okay, so they
So
say,
they're not gonna
you
hire
can't go to this
Huggins.
guy, you have to go to that guy.
Or, yeah, I mean, they give you a list, it's not like you're only one to choose from.
That's
I mean,
Yeah, but we had
That's
that
the
for a long
network.
time with Anthem, and their doctors are virtually everybody in the state.
Mhm.
I mean, it really wasn't restricted.
Did you have site of service? Because that's not the description that we were getting.
We had something, what did they call it? I don't know, you had a primary care physician who you had to go see first, and then if you had to go to a specialist, they had to refer you.
Right, and that's
But
what,
the- but
that's
the
what we have
physicians
now.
were virtually everybody in the state.
Right, that's what we have now is for coverage. The site of service is, you have to go to that area or that site. Or you go to the enormous copay, which is, I mean,
We have this,
You know, I don't think any of us wants to put that burden on the town's employees, because
you gotta-
there aren't a lot of people who can
$10,000.
afford that.
it's the time of year to re-sign up for all these mandated health insurance programs that we have now. And, you know, some of the, I guess you'd call us the blue collar workers that have to pay their health insurance or get penalized if they go without it or go without it.
there's no penalty anymore.
No, yeah, they
That's
took away
all,
the penalty.
that's.
But they're paying $400 to $500 a month out of pocket for a single person. And has a huge deductible and all this other stuff. And so you say you worry about the town employees going a little backwards. Well, the regular people go a long ways backwards.
I think that's
And then we have to
what
deal with
bothered me is that
Yeah, I mean,
the town employees have
they've got
coverage that is better than the vast majority of the people who live and work in the town.
Yeah, and that's, I see an inequality there.
I don't know
mentioned
if
this
that's
before,
You
true.
know, I mean, some people are,
I actually don't think that's true. The town employees have better health coverage than the vast majority of the population. I mean, there's definitely, and we had them in here Monday, the low and moderate income people that are living in the trailer park. Obviously, they've got better coverage than most people. But
Why?
why?
Yeah.
Why would they? Because they're working here. I mean, we're offering them that as a benefit to their employment. You're saying we should just push everybody into the low and moderate income
I'm
insurance pool?
Just saying, again, that other than the summer people or the doctor who owns a summer home here and comes up on weekends, but the people who live and work in the area,
Mhm.
I don't think have. most of
Nowhere
them.
close.
Nowhere close.
no,
Well, then,
I love
you know,
the employees at Melvin Village Marina, and they do not do as, you know where the real thing comes in? Is they do very well for the coverage of the employee, but we don't cover the family.
right.
You guys are picking up $25,000 on a family plan.
yeah, I say if you hit the town employees, it's okay, we have to charge you this much now. They're not going anywhere.
Well, I do think we have to take care of the town employees. I think they work
Well,
hard.
but we
I don't
do
think
take
they're-
real good care of them.
I think we take good care of them, but I wouldn't say that we take real good care of them. I mean, it's,
Right, there are only 14 of them. You know, want them all to work to contract, that's fine. I mean, it all goes in one direction or another. If you want to just cut the health insurance, cut the health insurance, by all means. If that honestly makes the budget better. The budget has changed by $31,000 with the health insurance and the salary increases. That's 3% in 1 year. If you think that's excessive, by all means, cut it.
I don't necessarily say we have to cut it,
Mhm.
but I think we're rapidly approaching, and if we haven't approached it already, we have to start thinking about a change in policy for new hire.
Mhm.
To say, all right, and I understand the fact that, you know, I know who's working for the town, and I know that we've got an aging, you know, we have an aging populace within our employee base, okay? And those will age out, and we understand that. But I think you've got to try, sooner or later, you're gonna have to say, you know, we've done a great job for a long, long time, but we just cannot continue on this. And that's just my opinion. I told it, this is nothing, I'm beating a dead horse in the ground, but I told other people in the past that we did the Thornton study, or the Thornton study was done. That was the time to address the benefits package. If you're going to have these major escalation in salaries, when the employees were not, I didn't hear a whole lot of complaint about the salary structure from the employees prior to the Thornton study. They did the study, the salaries escalated dramatically in 1 year. That was the time you should have done it, and it wasn't done. Well, I think now you're gonna have to, it's gonna have to be done eventually. At what point are you gonna do it?
You know, it's a runaway train.
Yeah.
A little
That's my
different
opinion.
tack. Are we expected to vote on this tonight?
You don't have to vote on it at all. It's gonna be in,
It's gonna be in personnel administration, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a discussion.
right. Yeah, you don't get to choose.
Right.
I don't think we should spring a surprise on the employees.
Well, and I appreciate what Gordon is saying, that, you know, new hires, you treat them differently. That's only gonna work in a couple of situations. Town clerk's assistant, that could work there. Police officer can't work, because if you're doing the same work, you get the same pay and benefits. And that's just labor law. If we elect someone different for tax collector, let's change the salary, I'm all for that. We change the office staff, let's, you know, start them off with less. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just not ready to be the guy that sits here at this table while you guys are all having coffee down at the store telling all the employees, this is what we're gonna do. I don't think that's gonna, I mean, to manage this place and all of a sudden throw a $30,000 blanket over them, which is what, $2,000 a piece. It's gonna cause some issues. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but
I don't think you should.
Are there 14 town employees?
yeah,
No, there's 14 that are eligible for
yeah.
health insurance.
How many town employees are
There aren't many more than 14.
I'd have to look at personnel administration
there?
sheet
Because
to tell you that Karen probably
It'll
knows.
be
wages and
I
compensation
don't
is
know
like
how many.
50%.
Well, I mean,
of
you
the
had-
budget.
Part-time
you have-
manager.
You have the fire department, for
Yeah,
instance.
that would
and
be a
there are
long list.
Right.
Yeah.
20 firefighters
Sure.
that aren't on anything other than we pay them.
Right, we've got some library assistants that are in there, we've got the 3 at the transfer station, the per diem guys that are called in when he needs them.
Yeah.
The town employees, they're not getting the benefit package because
Right.
they're not
I mean,
full-time.
you're elected officials, you could get the insurance.
Mhm.
You can buy the insurance. You can buy that health plan if you want to buy it.
Oh, I've been to the insurance company for many a year now, I'm buying insurance once a year.
No. If you
You
think
know?
that this is somehow a better plan than you can afford out on the street, by all means, come in and sign up. You're an elected official, you can do that. I think everybody in town should be able to do it, but.
It's the whole, it's not just this, it's the whole benefits package where we're seeing people, especially if their whole family is covered under the insurance plan, having, you know, the benefits package becomes an add-on of 30 and 40%.
Yeah,
of their
it's a little more than
salary.
40%.
Is it, what's it?
It's a little more than
It's a little more than
40%.
40%.
Yeah.
I was being conservative.
But that's not terribly out of range in terms of the corporate, corporate benefit programs. Generally, where I came from, it was, your benefit program was generally about 30 to 35% of your salary.
Well, I know
Yeah, but
UNH
that's
is
benefits program, including the pension plans.
Right,
Okay.
52% in the university system.
Well,
That's what it is.
I can beat the dead horse until the dead horse isn't gonna move anymore, but I did live.
Well, many businesses are now just reducing their employees' hours so they don't have to pay the insurance on that.
Yeah, that's great. You know, it's,
But
you know,
they're doing that
Walmart
because
has
of the cost.
a whole department devoted to getting you, the Walmart employee, food stamps.
Yeah.
Who's paying for the food stamps?
I'm-
You and me.
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
just
that's
saying
corporate
that
welfare.
Businesses are doing that because they caught, because they
No,
can't
their
control
businesses
their
are doing that
insurance.
because the bottom line suffers. We're not looking at the bottom line here. What we're trying to do is manage our expenses. I think a 3% gain in expenses over year to year is not excessive.
You did what I asked, which was look at more health plan options, and I think you probably did make.
Well, and we did get a letter of recommendation from Concord Group.
And I saw that, yes. I'm trying to, I forgot who Dave was, and then it dawned on me that Dave is Mr. Halverson's
Right.
assistant, yes.
I mean,
Did they help you? Was it?
yeah, we did get spreadsheets from them. We did a lot, Diane did a lot.
I mean,
of
they'll
work.
give you endless spreadsheets like this if you want, but
Right. We're, it's a little different because we're a municipality versus a commercial entity as far as what we have other alternatives than you do, for instance.
well, we're up against the same wall. And, we're still looking at other alternatives. And the only good thing is that while I do the regular insurance, property casualty insurance, my son Matt does the health insurance. I don't have to do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's a troublesome thing every year as far as I'm concerned. I'm not ready to. I appreciate Gordon's position. I'm not ready to drop the hammer with a 3% increase.
Well, we said that last year,
Oh, yeah.
and the year after, and the year before that.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, we're gonna have to make a decision, draw the line in the sand, and give and give the employees advance notice. By the way, this is the last year you're gonna have 100% paid coverage. You're going to have to contribute something. Whether you're gonna do, as Tom was saying, fine, the employees themselves are gonna be covered 100%, but we're going to have to assess some kind of premium plan for the rest of the family. Okay, but if you give them advance notice, then I don't think you have to apologize to them, because that's gonna give them an ample opportunity to say, well, boy, this place isn't a wonderful place I want to work for anymore, and they won't be thrown out in the street. But at least they'll know. Okay.
And
Because
some-
everybody else in this community is gonna have to pay more next year. And I'm not talking about taxes, I'm talking about, if you look across the gray hairs in this community, we're all gonna pay more.
yeah.
And we're all gonna get less than 1.7%, I think, for COLA, for Social Security.
And we all discovered Medicare is not in fact free.
Exactly.
And if some of those employees took offense with that and decided they'd look elsewhere, when you hired somebody for that same position that was much younger, that would look at that, who's been paying their own health insurance, would say, boy, that's not too bad, that's a pretty good deal, I'll buy into that. And that's what would happen, was people coming up and taking these jobs are gonna be in the point where, well, healthcare is not just given to you.
It's not easy
And
because
they'd be
we
younger, so
we
they'd
do
get
value our
less
employees.
Well, yeah,
premium.
I mean,
Well, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a
When
cost
we-
to
when
that.
we-
And it's not a
The
simple
watchword of the
matter.
Governor Warwick Regional Association for district, when I was on the show, when I was on the board there for all those years, was we always strove to have average wages and benefits package for above average working conditions. Which I think we probably have in this town, is above average working conditions. I don't think it's a divisive community. I don't think that the department heads are at loggerheads with selectmen or loggerheads with us. It's a pretty collegial,
Right.
community. And I think you have to figure that into your thinking when you're doing salary structure and things like that.
Absolutely, and replacement of employees, it's not a simple mathematical.
no, it costs a lot of money to replace.
Mhm.
And, you're right, it's.
All right, then
management people.
we'll discuss this a
Is
little
this
more,
head-
I'm sure, with personal
this horse is
administration,
dead?
but we'll move on from that. I'm not voting that tonight. I don't have any correspondence, new business. Tom?
CIP has finished its report. It will be presented, it's due out from the printer tomorrow. It will be presented to the Budget Committee and the Selectmen on December 3rd, 6:30, Townhouse.
Selectmen's update, Chip, anything new?
We're struggling along. I think we have, well, we did the police tonight, we still have highways and streets. There was some comment this afternoon on the telephone that we weren't gonna have any new budgets for us for next Tuesday, which I'm
Means
struggling with.
that segues into the next meeting dates.
Yeah. I'm struggling with that a bit, but somehow Thanksgiving landing on the last week of the month is screwed up.
And next week's December.
Yeah, we have material for next Tuesday, it's just the 10th, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So the third is definitely on.
But we are on for the
I have
third.
it before for that, yeah.
We are on for the third, because that's the CIP, but
right,
tentatively at this point, there's not a whole lot to bring to the table on the 10th. If something comes up, then I would say that tentatively we will not have a meeting on the 10th unless you hear otherwise. Is that fair?
December 10th?
I think that's fair. I
December
think we'll let you know as soon as we possibly can. Hopefully you're getting copies of all this before the meetings.
We do. And we,
I didn't last time. I don't know why.
We knew you weren't coming.
Yeah. And-
It was sitting there, but you probably got it tonight, right?
Yes.
I gave you both, yeah.
But I did, that was my trigger to, I've got a meeting coming, I get it by email. And for some reason, Ether just absorbed everything. Apparently my wife can't find it either.
Oh,
If she
no.
can't find it, it didn't get to me somehow, but.
Oh,
Happen to be
I
the
have
two
you all on
budgets I
one
care the
list.
most
That's
about,
weird.
but that's all right too.
And we're on, while we are on the subject of meeting dates, Karen informed me that the state has approved our, we want to have our public hearing for the budget, for the 2020 budget on February 4th. That's the day we'll be targeting for. With a rain, snow / monsoon date for the next evening on the 5th. Okay.
We'll try to put together a list of proposed warrant articles. Start looking at them.
All right.
3-day blizzard? The 3-day blizzard, we gotta keep backing it up.
It snows, you know?
That
like
always
a-
has.
It's like in Montana, they don't have school closings.
Well, if this is,
Snows.
just wait for the next one.
You know?
How many days did we miss?
Never.
One. Because the show was collapsing, we had to shovel the roof.
Yeah.
That was 13 years straight.
Public input? None forthcoming. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Favor aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Stay at home.